Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and because 4 billion people around the world can't possibly be wrong about how cool a sport it is, we're going to spend an entire episode talking about soccer. We're going to have Eric Belcher from Greyhound Women's Soccer. We're going to have Brandon Misaraka from Men's Soccer. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Really good weekend for Greyhound track and field in Albuquerque at the Don Kirby Relays. We had Grizel Scarlett and Jody and Stewart that both had provisional qualifying marks for the NCAA Division II Indoor Championships. For Greyhound softball, they got a chance to play 2 games in Colorado before weather impeded. They won them both, so they're now 7-1. Greyhound baseball went down to the Gulf of Mexico, played 4 games against Kingsville, won 2 of them. Greyhound basketball, the men unfortunately lost both of their games on the road to Midwestern and Cameron. Greyhound ladies did lose to Cameron, but on the other hand, they pulled the upset win at Midwestern State, so they are definitely peaking at the right time. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring in our first guest, Eric Belcher, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of Sportslook the head coach of Greyhound Women's Soccer, Eric Belcher. And Coach, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, get to talk a little bit more about our upcoming endeavors. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Now that you've had a chance to put the season from the fall in the rearview mirror, overall, do you kind of have the same impression of the season you did when it ended, or has it changed?
Yeah. Actually, a question I get from recruits all the time is you know, what are things looking like? And I tell them we had a good season, maybe not on paper, but soccer-wise, I was very excited for what we were putting together. Now we're just looking to add more pieces to the puzzle. So I would say a good fall, and we're excited for the spring and just ready to get going for the following fall.
Now that you have had a chance to think about it, what area did you really improve on the most in the fall?
Our biggest thing that we were looking to do was ball possession. Leading up to this year, we focused more on just trying to keep the ball, not just hoofing it. And I think going from last year, I guess my first year to this year, we improved drastically. You know, looking at our halftime stats for some games, it'd be us up 8-2 in shots or us 70-30 in possession, and those are things we loved, but we just couldn't finish the final piece of it, which was keeping the ball out of the net. But overall, the possession of the ball is something I was excited about. I always say don't tell the girls that because we didn't do too good, and I don't want them to get too pumped about it, but very, 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 very happy in what they were able to do with just the possession.
So when you go back and you look at film of matches, is there anything that surprised you? Like, I did not see that at the time it was playing out in real time?
Yeah, I will say some of the goals we scored that came from some of the people that scored them, things that you just wouldn't have expected. But I think our seniors did a good job this year in embracing the role of being in the right place at the right time, and they scored a lot of goals for us. So things we weren't prepared for, but happened that helped us.
Now that the seniors have played their last match for you, you can talk about that. I would never have asked you the question while they had any eligibility left. But looking at it, who are you going to miss the most defensively? Who is the offensive player that's going to create the biggest gap by graduating?
Yeah, we were kind of talking about this the other day with some of the girls. You know, it's one of those things where when you look back at Eastern soccer the past 5 years, a lot of familiar names the whole 5 years. So on our back line, it was someone like Kenzie Mitchell, who 5 years in Eastern, you know, the face of our program, the heart of our team, she gone. So filling those shoes is something that I think we have kids that can do it, but, you know, we've got to understand that who she was and what she did. Obviously, Samantha Jeffries in the goal, you know, a great story and sitting her first 2 years on the bench and then coming in my 2 years and almost beating the record for shutouts, right? So goalie is going to be a role we have to fill, and she had big shoes, a good player, day in and day out. And then offensively, I would say all of those that played that as seniors contributed in some sort of manner, whether it was a goal or an assist. You know, One player that sticks in my mind the most is probably Haley Huff. She was someone that took it upon herself this summer to go above and beyond and came back and really went from 0 to 100, is what the kids say, this fall, which was very, 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 very helpful to us. But obviously others did great. You know, Sydney Saxon, our leading goal scorer, senior, came into this program as a center back, a defender, played forward for me. This year, put a team on her back, scored 3 goals when we were up in Nebraska. I don't think we've had anyone, scored 2 goals and had 1 assist. I don't think we've had anyone do that in a while. So, but the class in general is a lot of goals that we're going to miss. So to really pinpoint a person, I think it's going to be tough. You know, most of them all started and contributed. So looking forward to see what the current girls are going to do. But we are missing a lot of goals and big leadership from you know, Mitchell and Jeff. So.
Do you give individual team awards? And if so, who were your award winners?
Yeah, so I used to in my younger coaching days, but something that I started when I got here, I give out pins that you put in your backpack. So essentially, if you do something great or something that helps, or you have a funny joke or something, we'll give you a pin. And then at the end of the year, you know, we sit down with everyone and we look at, you know, what we've done, and we strive to get the pins, and then we have a surprise at the end of the year. So, you know, last year our team manager ended up having the most pins. You know, her help with us throughout the year was deserving, and that's kind of my way of rewarding the kids. That way, it's not necessarily, hey, you're the MVP of the team because you scored 6 goals this year. Whereas the girl who just had surgery helped us out a lot by maybe picking up all the cones every day. Hey, we appreciate you. Here's a pin. You know, and I think for our team that puts us all in a situation where we want to achieve, because at the end of the year, we want to have the most pins, and whatever the gift may be, we want to be sure to get it. So I've shied away from the individuals. I want more of our team to contribute. And our way of doing that is obviously the pins. So, you know, I was talking to one of the kids the other day, and she lost one of her pins. A bit devastated. She's like, I'm just going to buy another one. And I'm like, shoot, they can do that. So I've got to decide on what I'm going to do every year with the pen, because you can really just go buy another one. But I can appreciate everyone, and I think they love each other to a point where the awards don't necessarily matter to us because we all contribute. But they do enjoy getting a pen. I'll never forget. I think it was Bree. She told a funny joke, and I happened to laugh. So I said, "Hey, I appreciate that. Here's a pen."
So moving forward, and we'll say goodbye to the sports year that was 2023 and look at 2024. In a perfect world, what's the blend of JUCO transfers, freshmen, one and dones, and did you hit that, or was it a little bit off from where you'd like?
Yeah, it's tough for us this year. I mean, you know, going into 24, you'll see our senior class is huge. We've got 14 seniors, and majority of them are transfers. So I think for our program, we're still trying to find that balance. You know, Eastern is a special place in terms of academics. So we do find that kid that really wants to come here, that may be a junior. And I think sports in general is unfortunately going away from the regular freshmen. You know, there's over 1,200 kids in the portal, you know, that are college ready. They can do it academically. They can handle the workload from weights to class to games to travel, and you're not really teaching a 17-year-old how to be a college athlete. You know, but going into our next class, to be fair, I think we have 11 or 12 freshmen. You know, so we're trying to catch our balance. I think I came in at a good time in the program where it was, you know, we could figure out what we wanted. But I do feel the next couple of years is going to be more freshman oriented as we just try to balance the team in general. But yeah, next year, 14 seniors that are, I would say, three kids that would have been here 4 years, and everyone else transferred in.
In terms of the freshmen, was there a particular part of the country that you did most of your recruiting, or are they spread over the great continental United States?
Yeah, so thinking back to it, I think the majority of our incoming freshmen are from New Mexico. You know, so when I got hired, you know, I made it my vow to be sure that anybody that plays soccer in New Mexico that is of standard does have an opportunity to continue their education first, and then if the soccer works, it works. So I think we've got a lot of kids that are excited to get the chance to continue their education, and we'll give them a chance. The tough part, I think, that we struggle with in the state is we don't necessarily educate the kids on the fact that there's a lot of federal help through the state to continue college. So I've made it my goal to ensure that the New Mexico kids understand that, and giving them an opportunity soccer-wise is something that's, I guess you could say, a cherry on top. So looking forward to them. At least I know I've done my part in ensuring that the next generation does get to college. Everything else is what it is.
In terms of the spring, what's your schedule like?
So I was just talking to our sports information director about this as we had to change a game, but we've got 5 games coming up in the spring. We start after spring break, so we'll host 2 club teams that are from New Mexico. So for me, that helps us get the kid on campus, and the kid gets to play soccer as well. So you get to experience all of college in one weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we take on the NAI school in the state, which we've played them twice since I've been here. They've got a good coaching staff, got a good group of kids, and it's always a good little battle for us. And then we've got a community college out of Western Texas, I think they're called.
Out of Snyder.
Yeah, a new group of coaches that I've got to connect with. So excited to get them on campus, which is another avenue for if we want to have a JUCO kid, they get to see it firsthand, and they also get to kick the ball that day. And then we head down to New Mexico State, returning the favor from last year. So great experience against, again, another championship team as they were the year before, and we're hoping that we get a better result.
In terms of the product that you're going to put on the soccer pitch next fall, what is the one thing that people who come out and watch are going to be impressed with? What do you think you're going to be really good at?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that we always get is our girls are very competitive. I don't think that's something that I can help. I think I've enhanced that, but the group that we have, they understand competitive nature is who I am and what we want. So we'll have that a lot next year, but we're going to be more of a ball-playing team. My first year on the sidelines, just watching us play, it was a lot of just kick it. We won more games that way, but for me as a soccer player, that's a lot of hope. And the wins in Portales are not forgiving when it comes to hope. So we want to keep it on the ground. We want to play more, and I think the technical players we've brought in are going to be coming in the fall will help us do that. And then we mix them with that grit that we already have. I think we're going to be a harder team to play in the fall than we have been the past 2 years. And one of the things that most coaches are afraid of when it comes to us is what we were in 23 and then what we were in 22. And if you get both of those together, which you're going to get in 24, you may lose more games to us than you think you're going to lose. So pretty excited for that to gel, and hoping that everyone's healthy and we can manage that.
Well, Coach, congratulations on the success you've had in the 2 years here so far. Let's hope that next year we're talking about going to the LSC playoffs.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'm with you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and we'll bring in the head coach of Greyhound men's soccer, Brandon Mizuraka, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and an honor to bring back to the set the head coach of Greyhound men's soccer, Brandon Mizuraka. And Coach, welcome back to Sportslook.
Yeah, good to be back.
Now that we have you in the spring and you've had a chance to look back at the fall, what are your overall thoughts about the campaign that was 2023?
Yeah, fall 23 campaign was ups and downs. I think that at the beginning of the season, we were still playing through some things. I think, to be fair though, once we hit midway, I think we started to take stride. And then I think the last 2 games, right, you can feel a little bit disheartened to ultimately go from being third in the conference and, you're out of the conference tournament. and that it just is what it is. And that's, things that in reflecting, I think, there's some positives. I think there some ways we outperformed based on some resources, but at the end of the day, I think that there's positives going into 24 that we're really excited about.
We correctly anticipated my next question because I was
Mhm.
going to say, looking back on it, what were you most pleased about?
Yeah, I think that, just finding an identity. I mean, we can talk about the fact that we sent 2, 3 boys pro. I mean, that's great. But at the end of the day, like, I think that, the passion and the desire to be successful going forward is something that, we're most looking forward to, most excited about looking into 24.
Let's talk specifics, if you don't mind. Who
Mhm.
was your best offensive player? Well, let's look at it this way. Let's look at the seniors because
Sure.
you may not want to play favorites with the guys
Yeah.
that are coming back. So let's look at the guys that are lost their eligibility.
Yeah.
Who was the biggest loss that you're going to suffer offensively? Who's the biggest loss defensively?
Yeah. To be quite fair, Doc, with you, we don't lose anybody. So for us, there's no seniors, so we're able to have everyone back that we want back. And for us, I mean, like, yeah, it's going to be tough, losing Hugo and Daniel because they signed pro deals. But for us, at the end of the day, like, we're excited about this upcoming class of seniors, where we have about 6 or 7 that we're really excited about.
So talk to us a little bit about that. How does that work? Are there scouts that are watching American soccer football to the
Mhm.
rest of the world, or do your kids have to make contact and then it's a process of getting chosen?
Yeah, I think that ultimately, right, with the student athletes that we're bringing in, I mean they've all been developed by quote unquote brand name clubs, clubs that are competing for Champions League spots, competing for spots in Europe. So for us, I mean especially Dan and Hugo, I mean they both excelled in the Euros for the U19 over the summer. So they were able to just, really kind of slide in, back home. I think that we knew pretty much as the Euros were happening that, they were only going to be here for the fall and then, they would move on after that. So, and yeah, I mean, you got to make a little bit of contact. I mean, a lot of it's CV and a lot of it's what they do while they're here and what they do with those opportunities.
Let's go back and talk a little bit about the season as a whole.
Hmm.
What match were you most, and it doesn't even have to be a win, but it may have
Hmm.
been where you were playing a really, really good squad and you played well.
Yeah.
What was the most satisfying match?
Yeah, us beating St. Mary's 4-2. I think they were number 17 at the time. Probably could have been 6-2 to be quite fair. So for us, I think that's where everything was just clicking. We scored some good goals. Maybe conceded at least one of the goals that we'd like to have back. But for us, like I thought, that was kind of the standpoint where you see the boys after the game celebrating and actually realizing that they just beat a good team, and St. Mary's was a good team at that point, and so it was a good experience, good for the boys. Doesn't beat number 7 though in the country though, first game in 22.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, Looking back at the season, going into a season, a
Mhm.
coach, you think you know
Mhm.
what you're going to be good at. You think you know the way things are going to go, and sometimes it plays out that way.
Sure.
Sometimes it's something totally different. So, was last year you thought you knew, and that's what happened, or was it kind of different than you had expected?
I think that you look at it on paper. I think that we expected to start a little bit better than we did. And then again, I think that once it got rolling, I think that we started to meet some of the expectations and outperforming some expectations. So for me, like some boys stepped up that we weren't expecting to, straight away as young freshmen. But for us, like I think that a lot of it almost went according to plan up until kind of the very end.
Well, here again, like you're reading my mind because I
Mhm.
was going to ask, who was your most improved player?
Yeah, most improved, I would have to say. I'm actually going to go with one that actually didn't even play this year, Yair Jimenez. I think that he's a boy that we redshirted this year. Um, actually got called up to a match day roster because he was performing extremely well. Young New Mexican from Highlands High School here in New Mexico. So for us, like, we're excited about him, and there's countless other young freshmen that we're really excited about as well that are taking more leadership roles and more consideration going into 24.
And here again, you kind of have an idea of the way you think the Lone Star Conference is going to play out. Did the LSC shake down the way that you thought, or were there some surprise teams, both better and worse?
Other than Eastern not being in, that was an expectation. No, I think that every team is good in this conference. I mean, it's drawing names at the end of the day. It feels like we know going into every match, team's going to be tough. They're going to be big, strong, physical. They're going to be able to run for 90 minutes, and like you just have to be able to impress your own will and really just battle for the results. So I think for the most part, everything kind of went according to plan with at least the other teams in the conference.
Let's talk X's and O's for a minute. In terms of your in-game strategy, do you have a set rotation pattern that you're going to use match in and match out, or is it just like, okay, this kid isn't bringing the energy, and so I'm going to sub for him?
Yeah, I think that in the course of a year, I think that simply put, you have boys that you have full trust in, and they're going to play a lot of the minutes. And then it comes down to when you're looking at the sub bench, 12 through 18, those can for the most part change based on who's performing well in training, who's done well with their opportunities. But at the end of the day, I think that every game's different, right? You bring someone on that's just not doing their job the way that they need to do it. I mean, we can't just be allowing someone to play through it, especially when these games matter. So, we're not afraid to make some tactical adjustments, right then and there if it's in the first 5 minutes. Luckily, we haven't had to do that. So that's something that's we're lucky about, and I think that for the most part, it kind of seemed very consistent.
Well, we talked about the fact that everybody that you want to come back is coming back, but you are bringing in some new people. So is there like one place that's the first place you look, or do you just look for talent regardless of where that player may be coming from?
Yeah, I think that you have to look in your home state first. I mean, I think that's something that for us, we've gone out, we've looked and identified, and that started over a year ago, identifying who we were potentially interested in the state. And then we branch out after the state. We'll look international and see who's around. Right now is kind of that cutoff point where boys are starting to get released from their pro clubs right now, pro academies. So they're now being told, hey, you're good, but you're not that good. Like, you're not going to sign a professional deal. So, a lot of the players that are going to be playing for Eastern don't know that they're even coming to the States yet. So,
well, that is exciting.
yeah.
Well, talk a little bit about what's going to happen in the spring. How do you divide up practices? Do you play matches like Eric does?
Yeah, no, we play 4 to 5 matches in the spring. That'll be spread out. Like, we'll start on the 24th of this month. We'll play a in-state team, club team. We'll play USW, the other New Mexico men's soccer team down in
But they were
NCAA.
NAI.
Yeah, NAI, not a state school, only state school with men's soccer. But no, then we'll play Fort Lewis, I believe, and then a couple other club teams as well. So for us, the spring's really about development. It's about grinding and really seeing if our boys are going to take that next step. Whether it's a young freshman that was redshirted, taking that next step. Are they going to be able to make the match day squad, or are they going to be potentially able to start? So a lot of testing. They were doing maxes today in the gym. So came over after watching them work with Coach Bell, which was really exciting. So boys are pushing it, a little bit sore, but we're really excited about it.
And here again, it's like you were a clairvoyant. You ought to go out and buy a lottery ticket because you're guessing exactly what the future holds. Because I was going to ask, talk a little bit about your relationship with our strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, I think that they're paramount to what we do. I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes down to periodization and making sure that our boys are healthy come match day. It comes down to having a strategic plan of what we want to have done. And, that really starts in the summer. Starts right after finals in reality that they're starting with their preseason packet. And so, in reality, these boys will, outside of, finals week and midterms weeks and spring break, they're going to be grinding from now until next December, hopefully. So, really just getting them back in the mood. And, I think that, the energy that Coach Bell, brings on a daily basis with this group is unbelievable.
Well, Coach, congratulations sincerely on the success that you had. I mean, you looked like you were going to the playoffs last year. Let's hope that when we talk to you this time next year, we can talk about the Greyhounds having achieved the Lone Star Conference postseason.
National tournament, or bust.
That, even better. All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Back during that dark chapter in our nation's history that we refer to as the COVID times, we kept Sportslook going. We had to do it remotely, and one of the guests that we got on as a remote guest was a guy by the name of Larry Hayes. If you don't know the name, you don't know very much about Eastern New Mexico University, because he was from Dora, went to Eastern, and had a stellar coaching career in baseball. As a matter of fact, he has a field named after him at Texas Tech. He has a field named after him at Lubbock Christian. And he recently became the first male athlete from Eastern New Mexico University to be inducted into the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. So, Larry, congratulations. It was an honor and a privilege to have you as one of our guests on Sportslook. Well, that is going to wrap up an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Eric Belcher and Brandon Misaraka. My floor director, once again, was the incomparable Mr. Nick. So, for those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.